Hello, humans. So, I'm just going to do some more work on the gameplay. However, I have had a few ideas in the meantime for ways to optimize some stuff. So I guess we might as well just get right into it. So first of all, if we are checking for boxes, if we are checking if the radar is within a square, then we only need to send back the points that are in the square. So that should make things significantly faster. So I guess we can say have a variable in box and that will default to true. However, if you are checking a box and this is not true, then we'll set in box to false, and we'll only push the data if inbox is true. So that means we can get rid of this. Because we know that all the data will be within the box. Wait a minute, I need to spawn a missile to actually check that this is working properly. And it seems to be working properly, so that's good. However, for some reason, now it's going a lot slower. So what's the issue there? It looks like it's always going to one side for some reason. Maybe we can make the amount the radar is spreading a bit smaller. Okay, so that seemed to work a bit better. However, it didn't explode at all. Maybe we can have it draw the target X and Y. So that will draw a dot at the position of the target X and Y. Okay, so the target X and Y seems to be right. I just think maybe the distance to explode is a bit small. So maybe set that, maybe divide that by 200. Okay, maybe divide that by 100. And it's exploded way too soon now. Why did it explode so soon earlier? That's weird. Let's start drawing the target points again. And let's draw it as white this time, so we can see it better. Ah! Wait a minute. What did I just do? Whoa. This is the wrong project. I think I accidentally switched the projects. Because, like, if I press Control R, it opens up this, I guess. But so if I try to reload the screen while I'm accidentally focused on the code editor, then it opens that window, and I guess I accidentally clicked on it. Anyways, I have to start the server again. Hold on. looks like the target moved on top of itself for a second. For some reason. That's very strange. That has to be .id. So I think what it was doing is it found that the strongest radar signal was a radar signal from itself. At least that's my guess. And I was incorrectly removing its own radar signal. Okay, so that works. Should probably do it again. Much better. Okay, so I've noticed that when there is a missile on screen, it is the player doesn't receive as much radar information. So I think what I can do here is do set timeout. And then have it wait 100 milliseconds or something. So now it won't immediately ask for more radar information. Okay, just crashed into a mountain there. Okay, so that still works. But does that actually fix the problem? Crashed into a mountain again. It's kind of hard to tell. Okay, yeah, it's definitely not doing it right. I'm not really sure what to do about that. Well, for one, I can make this array go backwards instead of forwards. And same with this loop. So I guess that'll make it faster, but not by much. Yeah, that's definitely a big issue. So I think what I can do is have another web worker. Maybe radar2.js. And then we can also have this one doing radar information. And that will be parallel to the other web worker. However, this also needs to get the terrain information. So if message.data index 0 is terrain, then we can say, what does this say? To let height map, let width, let height, then we can do width equals message.data index 1, height equals message.data index 2, and height map equals message.terrain, message.data index 3. Oh my goodness. So then what we need to do is we need to start the web worker. So let's do let radar2 equals new worker, radar2.js. So then, when we receive the height map information, what we can do is radar2.postMessage terrain width, terrain width, terrain height, and the height map. So that will increase the loading time, but what that allows us to do is calculate radar in two different web workers in parallel. So that should make doing the radar a bit faster. So here we can do radar2 and radar2. Then we'll have to do radar2.onMessage So I guess we can just do this. Yeah, I think that would work. So let's try this. Okay, so nothing broke. And the player can still receive about the same amount of radar information while a missile is on screen, which is very good and what we want. Okay, so I think it would be cool to do some particle effects. So I guess let's have a class particle. Then we'll have a constructor, an x, y, rotation, velocity, color, time. So this dot x is the x position, this dot y is the y position, this dot r is the rotation, this dot v is the velocity, this dot c is the color. I guess we should call this color. And then time. Then we would also need a start time. Which we can just do performance.now for that. Then we need a show function. So for the show function, we need to draw an arc. So we need to begin a path, do an arc at the x, y, and radius. I guess we'll call this size. And then just 0 and f.pi times 2. Then we do draw.fill. Then we'd have to set the fill color. So draw.fill style equals the color. So then I guess for this it would be better to have a velocity x and velocity y. So to calculate those, we need to do the math.cosine of the rotation and then multiplied by the velocity. And then same for this. So then we can actually have to adjust this for the camera position. Okay. So then we do this dot x plus equals this dot vx. And then the y plus equals this dot vy. So this will add the velocity x and y to the x and y positions. And then we can just have some drag force. So this dot Vx times equals 0.99. And then this dot Vy times equals 0.99. So that will multiply the velocity by 0.99 every frame. So then what we can do is the draw loop. We would need to do, actually we should probably do this first. So everything else will be drawn on top of the particles. So we'll just do for let I equal particles dot length minus 1, then I is greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus. Then we'll just do if particles index I dot show. So we're running the show function and testing if it returns anything. Then we can say particles dot splice I and 1. So then we would need a list of particles. So let's just do const particles equals an array. Then I forgot to have it delete itself over time. So we would need if this dot start time plus this dot time is, is less than performance dot now. Then we'll just have it return something. So this will do the start time, add the amount of time it should stay on screen, and if that is less than the current time, then we remove it. So then that should be a particle system. Then we can say in the explode function, you can do for let I equals 100, I is greater than 0, I plus plus. Then we can say particles dot push a new particle. So this will add 100 particles to the screen. Then this will be at the x and y position of the explosion. The rotation will be random. So it will explode in all directions. The velocity will also be random, except that will probably scale with the power. And then the size, we can just say is 4, and then the color will be an HSL color. Give me a second. Wait a minute. No, I forgot to switch to the code. Dang it. I did so much of it. Okay. Anyways, HSL picker. This is a fantastic website. So we can just say if it's between 0 and 54. So we can do, for the hue, we'll just say math.random times 54. And then the saturation will be 100%. Wait a minute. Saturation will be 100%, and the lightness will be 50%. Okay, let's try this. Okay, it broke. Let's have it stop. So what went wrong? Dist is not defined. Radar2.js. Oh goodness. So I guess this was not working properly. It just looked like it was working properly. So I should probably copy over the dist and map functions to the radar2. Okay, let's try this again. And it still stopped. I guess that's not really surprising. Okay, so it stopped at sketch.js line 214. So where's line 214? It is here. Oh goodness, that should be I minus minus. So it's supposed to decrease until... Okay, it's broken again. Size is not defined. Object.js line 350. This stopped. Okay. There we go. So you can clearly see a bunch of particles. So now I have to fine-tune that a bit. So I guess, first of all, I forgot to set a time. So if I don't specify a time, they'll just stay on screen forever, which is not good. So let's just do 1000 milliseconds times math.random plus 1000 milliseconds. There we go. So now we don't want them to explode as far, so I guess we can just divide that by an arbitrary value. And then we can change that value until it looks good. That definitely needs to be bigger. But also I think drag needs to kick in harder. So I think we can actually do more power. And more drag. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. To me, at least. So we now have a particle system. So I guess what we can do now is allow the player to launch missiles. And also, I think it would be good to have an option to allow the radar objects to not radar track. So we would just say if radar tracking. So that would prevent radar from being sent the first time, which would prevent it from receiving radar data. So then, if it doesn't receive any radar data, it won't ask for more radar data. So then we would have to specify where is it? Here it is. We'd have to specify that radar tracking is either true or false. For testing, I'm just going to set it to false. Yeah, and you can see it didn't move. Well, it moved, but it didn't change orientation. So I guess let's set this back to true. Actually, we don't even need this in the first place. So then, what we can do is in the player, we can say, actually I don't think we need to, I don't think we can say this in the player. We need to have some sort of like window.add event listener and then mouse down. So that will listen for when you click your mouse. Then when you do click your mouse, it'll run this code. Anyways, I should probably also figure out how you can prevent right-click from opening up the right-click menu. I've done it before, but I forget how. Okay. So I believe it is document.add event listener, and then says we can do event, then event dot prevent default, and the event has to be context menu. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, that works. I can't open a context menu. I don't know if you can hear me right-clicking, but I definitely am. So I guess then what we can say is, well, first of all, we would need to figure out how to detect whether you left or right click. So I'm going to look up if you can detect just a left click. Okay. It seems to have figured out what I need, even though I didn't search it, but I'm just going to copy this. Then put that in here. Then we don't need case 2 or the default. So then we can say, for case 1, we can, I'm just thinking, we can do radar objects dot push a new missile. Then the x will be the player.x, the y will be the player.y. Then the target x will be where you have clicked, so e.clientx. I don't know why they called it that, and e.clientY. And then if you left click, we'll say that radar tracking is false. However, if you right click, then radar tracking will be true. And it has launched a missile. So it's some sort of radar object. Here's one. There we go. And it seems to have tracked that. So let's look for radar objects. And there are none of them. So that means one of the enemies got blown up. And I guess that one hit 2 of them. Anyways. So now I have to have a cooldown for when you can launch a missile. Like how I have a cooldown for doing chaff. So I guess what I can do is in the player object. Hold on, I'm just going to move this. So in the player object, we can do this dot missile time, set that to 0. And then we can do is just copy this, I guess, and then put it way down here. Need to put that out of the switch, except I need to say player dot, and this needs to be missile time. Then we can say if missile time plus some sort of cooldown time, maybe 5 seconds. And if that is less than performance.now, then we spawn a missile. And then in the sketch.js, we can draw a UI element like we did for the chaff. So if I can find that code. This is a wrong section, actually. So let's just copy this. And this. Except we'll have this be divided by 5. And then this needs to be player.missile time. And then the position, let's just say multiply that by 2. Okay, that didn't work, obviously. So I need to have this be multiplied by 2. And also we don't want to multiply the y position by 2. Okay, it broke again. So it's saying that missile time is not defined, which means I forgotted this dot on here. Okay, so I'm clicking and it's not doing anything, which isn't good. So what's the issue? Let's just have it console.log this when I click. Okay, so I guess it's false. So I guess let's console.log both of these, which I probably should have done in the first place. Oh, it's not a number. Okay. What is wrong with missile time? Oh, wait a minute. This needs to be player.missiltime, not this.missiltime. So that seems to be working. However, we don't want those circles to be overlapped, which means I'm going to need some sort of offset. Oh goodness. So I have to copy this over to here. So yeah, that looks right. So anyways, what should I do now? Maybe make it possible for the player to shoot stuff. So I guess what I would need to do is have a class bullet and a constructor in X, Y, and rotation. And the bullet inherits from a radar object. So you can do super X, Y, and let's give it a radar cross-section of 0.2. That works. So then we need this dot velocity x equals, which would be the cosine of rotation times some velocity value. Maybe the terrain width. What did I say for the missiles? Okay, I just said times 5, which is not good. that needs to be relative to the terrain width. Maybe terrain width over 50. Terrain width over 50. Wait a minute. Actually, I can just... Okay, that's way too quick. Let's do 200. I feel like that's still a bit too quick. Okay. That works. So, let's have bullets move twice as fast. So that would be times turn width over 200. And then the y would be the sine of the rotation times terrain width over 200. Then we need a show function. Then and we should also have this for the missiles. So only some missiles should be visible to the player. So player visible, because the player knows where their missiles are, but not where the enemy's missiles are, and they have to rely on radar for that. So we'll do this dot player visible. I guess this isn't really temporary anymore. So if this dot player visible, then we'll do all this drawing stuff. And then we have to specify that these are player visible. So that would be true and true. Anyways, a bullet would also, we would need to know whether a bullet is player visible too. So player visible, then this dot player visible equals player visible then if player visible, then we draw it. So draw dot begin path, draw dot arc, this dot x, this dot y, the radius, then we can make this a bit smaller, I think. Although, I guess the player should also be able to see it if it's close. So I guess the distance between this dot x, this dot y, and player dot x and player dot y is less than terrain width over 8. Okay, so then we need to say this dot x plus equals the velocity x and the y plus equals this velocity y. So then, what we need to do is, if the player presses a button, we need to have it shoot something. So what button should that be? If keys dot that should be keys. I think that shooting should be space, and maybe chaff could be E or something. So then we need to do radar objects dot push a new bullet at this dot x, this dot y, and the same rotation as the player. So this dot r, and player visible should be true. So yeah, as you can see, I am shooting bullets. However, I'm shooting kind of a lot of bullets, so I guess this should probably not be in the show function. This might be better in the key down function. So I guess I can say if e.key equals space, then push a bullet. Oh, I forgot to switch to the code. I just put this here. Okay, it's not working. Ah, right. This needs to be player.x and player.y and player.rotation. There we go. So I can spam the space button and shoot a bunch of bullets. However, we would also want the bullets to delete themselves sometimes. So, guess we can say specify number of frames. So this dot frames equals, so I'm aiming for 60 frames per second. So if we wanted to make them last for 5 seconds, then we do 5 times 60. So then we do frames minus minus, and here, if frames is equal to 0, then we return anything. And then when we return something, then that tells it that we want to remove it from the list. Oh, I forgot to switch to the code again. Oh goodness. So it looks like when I press any key, it's doing that, which is not what I want. So this should be 2 equal signs. So now it's only when I press the space button. Anyways, it seems like they're going off screen before they can get removed. So let's maybe make this 3 seconds. Which honestly still might be a bit much. Yeah, they don't seem to be getting removed. Wait a minute. Draw this dot. And this dot. And it's still not getting removed. Okay. Let's have it console.log when it's supposedly removed. Okay, it looks like it does it just off screen. So if I was to make this 2 seconds, then you can see it gets removed. So then for testing, I am going to try to have it so it's not player visible. So you can see it goes, so you can see it disappears when it gets far enough away from the player. We're just going to have it console.log remove again. When it gets removed. So yeah, you can see it disappeared far before it actually got removed. So that means you can now shoot. So that is, I feel like that is a good time to stop for today. So I shall see you tomorrow.